go, I'd like to first start off by apologizing for the quality of video that you're seeing right here. This has been shot on my phone in a dark environment. Just to give you a backstory of what you're seeing right now, I'll talk you through that briefly and then we'll get to some more high quality B-roll, not B-roll, but behind the scenes stuff, and just to give you an idea of how I got the photo. So the photo that you saw in the thumbnail, if you clicked for the thumbnail, just to let you know, the photo that you're seeing in that thumbnail is actually the photo that we got with this setup. It wasn't the official photo. I wanted to see if that was enough to get people to click onto the video. I am quite happy with the result that we got with this, well, that I got with this. I'm here alone today. And the backstory of all of this is that I got an email from Apple because I own a couple of Apple products. I'm on their mailing list, I guess. And one of the first things, I think the first thing that showed up was a picture of those AirPods. It's their new ones. I don't quite know what the difference is with the old ones, but Julia has the old ones and they look pretty much the same. And I thought maybe we could replicate this photo, and that's what inspired this entire setup. And let's talk you through everything. Let's talk you through all the different things that we've got here, just to show you how I guess it's a little chaotic because most of my tripods and stuff like that are not actually here. So I'm probably going to order a few more to get things looking a bit more professional next time. But we'll talk you through all the different things and let's see how we got this photo. Right, this is the entire setup. I've got my black backdrop and I've got a black bed sheet, which I've bought for this purposes, well, for the purposes of photography, not necessarily for this one. This was a very in the moment impromptu thing, which is going all the way up here so that it blocks out this light that's coming here. I want complete control over what's that hitting that over there. And here it is. Sorry about that light reflection. Here's the general setup. Quite a flimsy setup we've got going on over here. Most of my nice stuff is not at home, which is why I've got all these little makeshift thingy-mabobs happening, but the result came out alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. Got a full frame camera, the Lumix S5, and I've got the 24-105 f4. After a bunch of playing around, I realized that I thought that I would need to put something behind this case to make the lid kind of lean a little bit forward for the shadow. After editing, or after having taken the photos, I realized that that was unnecessary. I think it would have been just as fine having it open all the way that it does, but the result came out close enough. We've got a Light SO3 on either side, 100% intensity, 0 saturation, therefore the hue is irrelevant. I didn't have enough diffusers to put on either side, which would have been a better thing to do, and I'll show you in the Photoshop why. In the original Apple photo, there's like a bit of a line that goes down, like this slender line of black that goes in the middle with a rim below, and that's why you've got a black card and a white card underneath it, creating this line here, which creates that nice white slither at the bottom edge of the case. To give the whole scene some general light, I've got this light also at 100% intensity, also 0% saturation, so hue is irrelevant, with this small diffuser to just soften the light going onto the pod case. I recently got myself a bunch of these nice clamps which have really made things much easier. This is on a very small, flimsy, actually what is a phone tripod. After doing this whole set, I decided that I am going to have to get a few more tripods and a few more little thingies, like smaller tripods that have extendable necks, to make things like this a lot easier, because it's quite inconsistent with what I have going on. There's a Joby one over there, so I'd like to have a consistent setup for stuff like this in the future. This tripod over here is a pretty decent, it's called a newer tripod. What I like about this is that you can get the neck to come out and then you can get it going horizontal and stuff like that, which is pretty decent. I will probably be getting more of these in the coming weeks. I've been really happy with this one so far. And the fourth light source that I kept on all of this was this Light SO5 over here at 5% intensity, 0% saturation. And because I didn't have any more tripods or arms, I with my hand held this on top to get the right shadow on the lid of the case. To try get the shots as clean as possible, I used manual focus and I focused on the lid, then I focused on the case, and I focused on the light and then the edge at the bottom, and then I merged those. I've got a video on that, which I'll link above and down below if that's something that you might be interested in. Focus stacking. And then to get the shots of the pods themselves, I kind of set them up like this. I plonked them in front of the camera and in a similar place to where the case was, hoping that if the light stayed consistent, it would hit the pods in the way that was intended for the original photo. I figured that the lighting for both was the same. Right, so here we go. We're now in Photoshop, and I'm going to very briefly talk you through some of the steps that I went through for getting those photos that I took using that setup that I just described to you or just showed you, and just take you through some of the steps. I ended up choosing 3 raw images, one with the lid properly in focus, one with this area over here properly in focus, and then one with the rim properly in focus. And as you'll be able to see, I just manually did this. It was only 3 photos. I didn't need to use the whole automatic Photoshop software to get this done. But if you want to learn how to do focus stacking on focus bracketed images, I'll leave a link to that up above and down below. Once I was happy with my focus selections, I went on to clean everything. As you can see, it is quite a banged up old AirPod system. So I used a combination of the clone stamp and the spot healing brush, you know, stuff like that. And once I was done with all the cleaning, it kind of, as you can see, I selected the whole thing out and then put a black background there. As you can see over here, it's not exactly symmetrical. So what I did is I kind of split this in half to an extent, and then I flipped it over to give it a more symmetric look. And if you look really closely, this is one mistake I made. I didn't take into account the slightly different exposure of this area over here. And it's just this dot that was in focus, and I just selected this, and as you can see, there's a bit of a darker area around you. I don't know if you can tell, but I fix that later. To get the light to contour more efficiently, to get the contour of the light to look more accurate compared to the original photo, I used the levels adjustment to do something like this. Stamped out the lid to start editing that separately. Look how bad and noisy that is. And then I desaturated the whole thing. These are each of the individual photos of each of the little ear pod thingies, which I separated out and then added over here. Now, if you recall, I did mention that we would have benefited from having a larger diffusion area on each side of the system, and that's because the very strong lights from those little wee lights resulted in these little lines here, but that was pretty easy to get rid of with some editing. See, I used the content aware fill to kind of edit that out. And my favorite part of all of this after having cleaned the image up a little bit. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is this looks pretty clean right now. It's because I opened that up now using the camera raw filter, which is essentially Lightroom, and I just added some noise correction to just smooth that all out to get it looking like this. And my final little touch at the end of all of this, new layer, hit B, brush tool. As you can see, I already have played around with this. Get nice in there. A nice soft brush, just showing you, it's really soft. Boop. That's the best part. I'm pretty happy with how this came out. It's obviously not perfect, but given that this was just a Friday afternoon session using some very, very, very affordable lighting equipment, just having an understanding of light and just thinking through or looking at the reference or trying to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, you can achieve a lot. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, folks. I do appreciate it. Don't forget to keep taking photos, keep making videos, take care of yourselves, and don't be afraid to just practice and just do stuff. If you see something that you want to replicate, think about how you can go about replicating it and take it from there. Goodbye.